Come with me, I'm headed down the right path. I feel so brave, my head held high and I'm showing class. Dreams ignited, every day I truly give my best. I'm thriving excitedly to be the very best version of myself. I'm so bold and I'm so brilliant. I feel amazing, I feel so resilient. I'm so bold and I'm so brilliant. Feel so amazing, I feel so resilient.
My next guest is Pinky Cole. She's a Jamaican-American restaurateur, community activist, philanthropist, and owner of Slutty Vegan restaurant chain and Bar Vegan in Atlanta, Georgia. Today, she brings vibrant Valentine's Day tips for couples to prepare plant-based meals together. Pinky Cole, welcome to the Chundria Show. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Of course, it's absolutely my pleasure. My dear, you and your love, Derek Hayes, have graced the cover of the January-February issue of Essence magazine, and you look absolutely radiant. Who or what do you attribute to your personal success thus far?
Oh, my personal success. I attribute it first to God, then the city of Atlanta. You know, I wouldn't have this much success if it wasn't for the people around me who supported me and stood in line for 8 hours a day to make sure that I had everything that I needed as an entrepreneur. I'm just so happy to be here and humbled, and hopefully I'm an inspiration to so many people around the world that you literally can do anything that you want to do as long as you put your heart and mind to it.
Oh, I love that so much. I love the way you think. I love how modest you are. I absolutely love
Thank you.
You're an inspiration. Now, all this week, I've been talking about ways to keep our love lives spicy during the pandemic. What tips can you offer couples to have a safe, fun, but romantic Valentine's Day, even if they're staying home?
Well, first of all, I don't want to call myself an expert, but I like to say I'm an expert because I'm in a relationship with a meat eater. So as a vegan, I like to create vegan options that are guilt-free, that both myself and my partner will enjoy without feeling like he missed out on anything, without feeling like I'm still hungry. But there's so many options that you can try, especially for Valentine's Day. And you can ditch the meat and really enjoy Valentine's Day and not have to think about making this whole big production, this whole big meal. And you can focus more on the love of your life and spending quality time with the person that you love.
You know, you're absolutely right, especially in these times. Quality time is so valuable and so very important. Now, your restaurant, Slutty Vegan and Morningstar Farms, have teamed up for the Make It Easy Valentine's Day campaign. Tell me, what's it all about and what's on the Valentine's Day menu?
So when we think about Valentine's Day, obviously we think about love. And when we think about convenience, we want things to be easy. So I partnered with Morningstar and Incognito to provide a Make It Easy campaign for Valentine's Day that really takes all the headache away from cooking. So whether you are a flexitarian, a vegetarian, a meat eater, or a foodie, I created 2 recipes that I know that you will love. The first one is called the Sausage Sweetie, because you know I always have a really good name for a sandwich. And it is a sausage, egg, and cheese sandwich on a Hawaiian bun that is sure to be the best breakfast in bed option on Valentine's Day. And then I also created the Irresistible Chick that comes with chicken tenders, kimchi, teriyaki mayo, pickles, all on a slider bun. And when I tell you, both of these options taste better than meat, you won't miss out on anything. It takes all the headache and all the time from cooking. And you literally can have a candlelight dinner with the person that you love on Valentine's Day, because what you're doing is literally making it easy.
Oh, I love that. I mean, that means that you get to spend more time with your loved one instead of having to be in the kitchen all day. So
absolutely.
Absolutely. I read that couples can cook on their own with minimal hassle using these Morningstar Farms products and then a number of other accessible ingredients. And I also love the names of these vegan recipes. How do you find the inspiration for the names of any of your signature plant-based dishes?
Because I'm crazy. I really use the names as a way to get people talking, right? Like if I can create dialogue around the names of my sandwiches, then I can get you locked in, and then I can teach you about plant-based living without pushing my agenda. My mission is this. I want to help people reimagine food without having them feel like I'm pushing something on them, forcing them to be vegan. I'm not telling you to be vegan. I am vegan. What I am telling you is to open up your consciousness. And if I can open up your consciousness with a racy name or two, then I think that I've done my job right.
I agree wholeheartedly. Absolutely. Now, in your opinion, I mean, this is great. I mean, you get up, you have a Valentine's Day thing. This could become a thing for couples to just do together, to prepare these types of meals together. How can couples draw closer to each other by cooking meals in the kitchen?
Well, first of all, I can speak on behalf of myself. Both myself and Derek, we both love to cook. Cooking is a bonding experience, right? When you can cook together, you bond better. You can learn about what he likes or what she likes, or the things that they don't like. And then you can share that meal together. It really is a time when you can connect on a deeper level. And intimacy is real, especially in relationships. And because I have a new relationship that's on major platforms around the world, I want to show people that intimacy can be outside of the bedroom, and you can literally create food options together that can be plant-based and can be fun and easy.
My next guest is a former NFL athlete, American Ninja Warrior on NBC, international speaker, host of the All Shifts podcast, and the founder of Identity Shifts Coaching, Anthony Trucks. Welcome to the Chundria Show. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Of course, my pleasure. Well, let's dive on in. I'm excited to chat with you. So I got your bio. I read in there that you were given away into foster care at the age of 3. You were moved around from one abusive home. You lost your NFL career to injury. And then today you make it your mission to empower others as you thrive through thrive through adversity. You know, how did you personally overcome those challenges and adversity through the different stages of your life?
I think the beginning is just survival. There's a lot that goes on because when you're given away, there's a whole aspect of the foster care system. And then, like you listed off, there's a lot of ups and downs, some great highs, some great lows, right? But I think a lot of it, the beginning is just survival. And then once it's eventually survival becomes instinctual. And I think that's kind of where, for me, in hindsight, a lot of it was just trying to figure out how to get it done. And then after a while, you start to react to certain situations in a typical way because you're used to it. You start to kind of find ways to frame your mind. Like we talked about when we first got on, I had a crappy weekend, but today I chose, like, I'm gonna have a great day. Just those little nuances are part of who I am because of that. And so outside of that, I'm a man of God. So God's been a heavy piece of it. And then great community of people around me as well. And being able to have resources and honestly, we'll call it places to let all the tension out by having discussions, a great place too. So people are a huge part of my world as well.
Oh, that's beautiful. Community is important. Faith is important. And then also just that tenacity, you know, that resilience to get through. So at every stage of your life, I commend you on. I mean, those are some hard feats that a lot of people have experienced, but you know, they don't always come out on top enough to empower others, I should say. Sometimes it's just, I'm just trying to survive. I'm not trying to pull the next man up. I'm just trying to get through the race.
Yeah, I was like that for a while too. I think that's what begins that way. It's like just me. And then I think the word I realized that one of my great assets is like understanding my identity. Like, who am I? Where do I fit? Who do I want to align with? Or in those tough moments, what do I give pride to? Am I giving pride to the fact that I don't give up, pride to the fact that I work hard when it doesn't make sense? And the more that I choose who I want to be in those trying moments, I show up in a way that doesn't feel right, but is right. And those little things became who I was. And then in time, I learned like, hey, if I can do this and other people can't, like maybe I can give this insight to the rest of the world. And that's kind of what transitioned into this realm of what I do now, where I speak and share and teach from that same place.
Fantastic. Now, you've overcome so much and you've proven to be a true inspiration to others. What did you glean from the overall experience on American Ninja Warrior?
Oh, it's a great show. It was, it was an accident. My wife, she signed me up and didn't tell me. What's funny is it was my recently new wife. We were high school sweethearts, got married, got divorced. And right when we got back together, this is when this all took place. And so I learned that sometimes people will see more in you than you see in yourself. And it's an interesting thing when you let them see it. Because most of the time when somebody wants more for you than you want for you, it causes tension. Because if I don't want it, why do you want this for me? And then you feel bad because this person you think thinks less of you. But when I let it happen, I leaned in, I was like, oh, I can do more than I thought. And also what it taught me was I have to go do things that are uncomfortable to figure out how great I am. So it's like the weirdest thing of life is like we have these things that we want this great moment. I want to feel amazing. I want this self-confidence, self-esteem. But it doesn't come from doing what you've already done or doing more of that, right? It comes from you doing something that's new. And typically new is uncomfortable, especially if it's at a higher level. And so it taught me while I was, 6'2", 225-pound former football player going up against people who are 5'8", $160, $170 rock climbers in a situation that's suited for them. I was like, I still got to find a way to win. Like, I got to find a way to do this. And I became the first former NFL athlete to hit a buzzer on the show, which is not normal, right? Because I'm not built for this, but it was me doing uncomfortable things that got to the point of hitting a buzzer and feeling great. And so that was one of the greatest lessons I gleaned from it.
I'm curious. I know your NFL career ended, short-lived due to injury, but then you were on this great show. Did that impact you in any way, or had your injuries healed, or how are you today?
Funny. So it's weird. Like I came in this weird turmoil because I was still in the midst of a whole lawsuit with the team that happened with. And so at this time I was doing the show, and they're like, well, if you're doing the show, how are you hurt? I was like, that's not the issue. The issue is whether I can play professional football, right? So the thing is with hanging, the position of the muscle, it pulls the shoulder out of the socket. Like the muscles that keep the shoulder in are a little bit different than ones that when you press things away. So pressing is football. I can't press to this day. It still hurts. But hanging, I could do all day long, apparently. So it didn't affect it too much, except for if I got to a point of having to push something or press something, I would have been screwed for the show.
Wow. So let's talk about the new year. Our new year is off to a fresh start. Many people have been sitting on their gifts and talents. Through your company, Identity Shift Coaching, how do you encourage people to live up to their potential?
Well, the biggest thing is to realize your potential is greater than what you see it as right now. What we typically say is, what can I do? It's usually based on the limitations I have from my experience of the past. So the first thing I do is I tell people you have to talk to somebody that's outside of your bubble, that sees you in a way that you don't see you, and ask them, hey, what greatness do you see for me that I can't see for me? And be open for the feedback. And they're going to say something that makes your butt pucker. And I go, oh, I don't want to do that, right? And it's going to feel out of character to do that thing. And the next stage is for you to say, well, out of character is not bad. We assume out of character is like, I don't want to be out of character. It's just a negative connotation. But the truth is, out of character can also go up. If it's not your character to be nice and welcoming and gracious, if you start doing that, that's out of character, but it's in a positive direction. So realize that once you've been shown something, the steps to do that are going to naturally feel discomfort, and you're naturally be like, I don't want to do this. That's supposed to be there, and lean into taking the actions that are unconfident, out of character actions. And you're not doing it just for an achievement. We assume we're doing it to get that thing. And if it's the only thing you're looking for, that's a problem. What I look at is, I want you to look at doing these actions with the intention of becoming a person that you believe deserves the achievement. Because if I all of a sudden get this thing and it doesn't feel like me, I will self-sabotage to not have the guilt of having this thing. Very interesting dynamic. So what I do is, how can I get you in the new year not to go big to get this thing, but to go small in a big way? And if you go small in a big way, you take the little actions, what happens is little by little, you earn that confidence, you earn the pride, you're taking the action. Eventually, you'll achieve the outcome. And when you get it, you go, look, I've put in blood, sweat, tears, time to have this. I deserve this. And then it becomes something that's naturally part of who you are. And now you not just have that thing, but you have the level of an identity that has access to vastly more.
I think that feeling of I deserve this is those words are so powerful. When you feel like you deserve something, I feel like you go with it with gusto. You go with it with tension. So I like that you said that.
People fight for what they believe they deserve. As human beings, I will fight for what I believe I deserve. If I believe that's my piece of pie, I'm boxing you if you take it, right? It's my piece. But the reality is we as human beings will fight for what we believe we deserve if it's high, right? Because we did the dark work, or low if we didn't. And so what it has to be is this thing where I believe years ago, the work I did in the dark allows me to not have you take what I believe is mine in the light. So I literally tell people, I've done too much work in the dark for you to take what is mine in the light. That's this, it's a guttural feel, like that's a thing. It's a deep sense. And for humans, if I've done that dark work, I will fight for what I believe I deserve, because it's up here. I'm not settling for this. However, if I didn't do that work, I'll also fight for what I believe I deserve if it's down low. This is a self-sabotage, this is procrastination, this is avoidance. This is the people who get a bunch of money and don't know if they deserve it, and they spend it so they don't have to feel bad about having extra zeros. Sounds really weird, but people do this all the time. So yes, we'll fight for what we believe we deserve. And the only way you can get that level up high is to do stuff in the dark that nobody's watching you do.
I feel inspired already. Is this what consultation with you is like?
Some days, sometimes it's not so much fun. This is all the fun stuff. The fun comes when I poke. We have what's called the shift method where we dig into this stuff. The work that gets you into motion is like the harder work. We have to actually figure out, there's 3 stages we go through to figure out where you're currently at that you aren't seeing, what you must do to shift, which is usually things you don't even anticipate or think of now. But then it goes in like, how do we get you into motion? And that motion is that really uncomfortable, out of character stuff. But the more you do it, this thing I'm talking about becomes reality. So while it's like, yeah, it's inspirational now, work is always this interesting journey where it's exciting at the beginning, it sucks in the middle, it's amazing at the end.
I feel like you're really getting into the psychology of your clients. Do you feel like that? Like a therapist in a way? Because you have to break so much down to uncover the gifts, to uncover the root of some of the hindrances. Is that how you feel when you're coaching?
It's always part of it. I mean, I work with the mind. Now, I'm not a therapist. I don't do therapy. I'm a former football player. It's not that I have any expertise there. However, there's always a psychology of how we operate as humans. I spend my day listening to people talk and trying to see their brain in the ways that they don't know it's operating. I call it blind spots, right? It's this concept of it's hard to see the label when you're inside of the jar. Most people are in the jar and they don't see the label on the outside of I procrastinate, I'm a bad communicator, I'm pessimistic, I get too angry. They don't see it. And my job is to be able to say, hey, you don't know, but your label says this. And they go, ooh, okay, right? So there is psychology to that, because how I introduce that concept, how I give a solution to it. Because if I give you a problem and no solution, I'm just a mean guy, right? So there's a lot that goes into it for sure that's based in psychology.
So what's your ideal client? I'm curious.
Yeah, well, a lot of different people. Anybody has an identity, really, but the root of who I work with primarily are family-focused business owners who are wanting to make more money, who want to drop their guilt and overwhelm, because guilt's a huge piece of all of it. And then want to get into what I call hustle harmony. Hustle harmony is this thing that we all have this desire to feed the need of like desiring to hustle, to build, to grow. The same as you do, I do. I know you have it because you got this cool podcast, right? So the idea is like, there's that desire, but at the same time, I want harmony in my life. I want to be in health. That's not like, 6-pack abs running 17 marathons, right? My version of health. I want to have an amazing relationship. I want to have great kids that love me if I want to have kids, but I want to have all that stuff be in harmony. And I find that the people I work with primarily are those who seek that. They're not just focused on money and want to neglect the rest of the stuff, but those who want to have that space where life feels unreal in a good way.
Beautiful. That's really beautiful that you get into the mind and you help people. At the end of the day, you're helping people get their deepest desires, know? And sometimes you need that. And it goes back to what you said earlier and what you said again, is that community, whether that's familial, whether that's your friend, or whether they're booking you, we don't have to do things alone. So I like that premise.
No, we're designed to connect as humans. It's odd when people want to do it alone. Like you got to do it with community.
Right. Now, you also have an amazing platform yourself. Tell me about your All Shift podcast and how you engage your listeners through your platform.
Yeah. So the All Shift podcast was created because I wanted to talk to cool people with a reason to do so. So I made this podcast, and it's about the All Shift good and All Shift bad moments that make you go, I learned something because it was amazing, or I learned something because it sucked. And it's tied into this language of how successful people make shift happen. And so I started this podcast and accidentally got to like 300 episodes. Like it just was weird how it built up. And it's been a blast. So I get to dig into people's minds who are successful in a vast different area of worlds and find out the shifts that they experienced and how they navigated those to be able to have the success they do have.
Wow. Get to know my next guest, Antwine Antoinette Love, an incredible self-taught baking enthusiast and contestant on ABC's The Great American Baking Show. Today, she and I discuss her amazing story, exquisite dishes, and new online series, Recipes for Conversations. Antwine Antoinette, welcome to the Chundria Show. How are you today?
I'm wonderful, beautiful. How are you?
Yes, you are wonderful. Let's dive on in and get to know you, my dear. So you appeared on season 2 and 3 of ABC's hit show, The Great American Baking Show. Tell me about the show and what you value most from that experience.
Sure. Okay, so the premise of the show is that we're these amateur bakers, and you go through all these series of auditions to make it like the final 10 best amateur bakers in the country, and they fly you over to England to film. And you film in this big, huge white tent in the field in the middle of nowhere. Actually, it's a Pinewood studio. It's a studio, a set that we're filming at. But if you're familiar with the Great British Bake Off, it's the American version of that show. So I had a chance to do that. I did it 2 years in a row because the first year when I went, my father had a massive heart attack and he passed away. So I had to leave the show. Of course, I wasn't able to complete the competition. And then ABC flew me back for the third season to compete again. And I wound up being a semi-finalist on that show. So yeah, I got to do 2 seasons in a row.
Wow. What do you value most from that experience?
Oh, wow. Okay. So what I value most from that experience is that it taught me to pursue purpose. Yeah, before I went for the show, my dad had a pep talk with me, because what people don't know is that when I came back, I didn't have a job. I just took a huge leap and did the show and left and said, hey, they chose you out of thousands, go for it, and came back home to nothing, and then also losing my father, coming back and not even having my father. So going through all of the turmoil with that and, going through my grieving process, I just had to learn, Chundria, that if I had stayed in my seat where I was in my corporate America job, I was frustrated. My dad would have left here seeing me in the same frustrated position. But because I chose to pursue purpose, my dad left here watching me soar. That was his last memory of me. So I would say my memory from the show is it just taught me that I need to pursue purpose.
Oh, that is absolutely beautiful. And I know he's continually smiling down and proud of everything that you've accomplished and everything that you will do. So, that's awesome. I'm curious though, what inspired your love of baking?
Oh, wow.
And you're self-taught at that. I'm so impressed by you. What inspired that?
So what really inspired it was, the time when everybody started doing the cakes that look like objects. That's what drew me to it. I'm an artist, so I wanted to do like the 3D cakes, the shoes, and the Gucci belt cakes and stuff like that. I really love part of it. But when I love the cakes, Chundria, listen, I only know how to make a.
Let's go back a second. You were breaking up a little bit when you were explaining the cakes.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. You said the Gucci. As soon as you said Gucci belts, I'll pose the question again if you don't mind.
Sure. Okay.
Okay, so I'll ask you this. What inspired your love for baking and you're self-taught as well? I'm so impressed by you. How'd you learn your way around the kitchen?
Sure. So literally it started with a love for art. There was a time when, everybody started coming out with the fancy cakes that were 3D, that looked like purses or shoes and Gucci belts. I fell in love with it because it was artistry for me. But when I did the show, I fell in love with the baking side, which is totally different. So that's how it started for me, the love for art. Yeah.
Love for art turned into you teaching you, like, I'm going to learn. I mean, that I see a theme of determination and drive in you throughout this story so far, And so now I understand you graduated from Langston University and you spent more than 20 years in the corporate healthcare industry. When did you know that you could embark on a career in baking? When did you know that I could do this as a career, despite what you had already been doing?
It started out with just me baking for family and friends, and then it started to grow and grow. And the more I wanted to pull away from it, the more it kept pursuing me. So it literally, when you have to decide the career or your passion, it started to compete with my career. Like I was spending nights literally. There was times when I would be up for 48-hour periods where having to go to a corporate America job and then having to go home and bake a cake. So really, it just got to the point where I had to make a choice. I was forced to make a choice.
But I like what you did, though. You kept the job. You maintained the job while you build out on the passion, you build out on the business. And then it seems to me, outside looking in, that it made for a more smooth transition.
Yes, and I had a daughter too. I was a single mother, so I definitely needed the daytime job while I was building up the clientele. Most people say just leap. For me, I was like, wait a minute, I have a child. I'm a single mom. That leap might look a little different for me.
You had to be strategic about that leap.
There
Okay,
you go.
so I read that I'm sorry. I read that your baking journey led you down the pathway to bake goods for many professional athletes and well-known recording artists, including Snoop Dogg. And your work was featured on VH1's Love and Hip Hop Atlanta. What has been your proudest achievement as a celebrity baker thus far?
Wow. Wow. I can't even name just one, all of them, because all of them have been like special moments or encounters where I've made cakes for Mali Music, going old school for Loose Ends, some of my dad's favorite artists, Frankie Beverly and Maze. I got to meet Frankie Beverly and make a white hat cake for him, so I can't even all of my experiences have been great because they've all offered something different for me. I can't even say which one. Now, the Snoop Dogg one was the most interesting one. That was a whole situation, but yeah, all of them have been special for me.
So how does a celebrity says, okay, I mean, obviously your referral game is strong. So, do you have complete creative control? Or even in the Snoop case, did he say what he wanted? Or how does that work sometimes? Is it always up to you to decide creatively, or do people come with ideas and then you just bring it to life?
Really, all of them have all trusted me. They've all come to the table and said, you just do your thing, be creative, we trust you. I've never had any stipulations on anything for me. So, I just research pages, go and look at their life and try to bring something about their life out in the artistry of the cake.
Well, I'm excited about all that you were doing. Tell me, what's in store for your new online series called Recipes for Conversations?
Yes, I'm so excited to talk about Recipe for Conversation. So one day I was in my kitchen and baking, and I started putting all these ingredients together and putting it and mixing it together. And then it just hit. Wow, recipes are like people. All of us have our own recipe. All of us have our own ingredients that make us who we are. And it just hit Recipe for Conversation. So it's all about me sitting down with amazing people.
Everything you will do, there is greatness in you, and I want to thank you for being my special guest today on the Chundria Show.
Come with me, I'm headed down the right path. I feel so brave, my head held high and I'm showing class. Dreams ignited, every day I truly give my best. I'm thriving excitedly to be the very best version of myself. I'm so bold and I'm so brilliant.